Okay, so I'm excited for you guys to meet Darlene. She is like an OG. Hey, girl, you can OG back from Clubhouse days that we met. And she's an executive business coach for women who want to be heard. And so here it was crazy. She started telling me, oh, yeah, I'm getting all of this business from being a guest on a podcast. And I thought, wait. I've done lots of podcasts, but I don't see that actually move the needle. At one point I was like, is this even worth doing it? How many of you guys can relate to that? Like, is this actually worth doing it? I'm showing up, I'm giving all this value, but I don't see anything on the back end. And she's like, no, I'm getting clients, I'm getting booked. Like, this is working for me. So I was like, we need to know your secrets. We need to know your secrets. What are you doing that the rest of us are not doing? So I am super excited to turn it over and let you guys hear from Darlene. So I'm going to take myself off so you can see her.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tara, for having me. I love podcasting. I have had my own podcast for, oh my gosh, I think I just hit 5 years and I'm at like episode 114 that will be released next week. And during that process, before I even started my own podcast, I started being a guest on other people's podcast. I wanted to put myself out there and get in front of what I call other people's audiences. Anybody else love to be in front of other people's audiences? Like sometimes, especially when we're new and we're starting our businesses, we don't we have friends, we have family, we have maybe past coworkers, but we're not sure where to start. And so one of my favorite things to tell my clients is go find people that are already doing similar stuff to what you're doing, not what you're doing, but something similar or something that's complementary to what you're doing, and do a swap. Find a way to get in front of their audiences. And one of the best ways I found to do that was through podcasting. And I'm 100% like Tara, where in the beginning, when I was doing podcast interviews, I wasn't getting anything from it. I was having a lot of fun. I was having a lot of conversations and I was connecting and really enjoyed the process, but I wasn't actually walking away with clients. And so if that's something that's happening to you, or maybe you've even been a little bit nervous to put yourself out there to be on other people's podcasts, I want you to take a minute and think about what would it look like if I was bringing in a consistent, 2 to 5 extra leads at least per month because I was having fun, having great conversations with other people who have podcasts, who already have audiences. And the beautiful thing about other people's audiences is they already know, like, and trust the podcast host, right? So when you come in as a guest, you already look like an expert. You look like an authority figure. You're a thought leader. You're somebody who's doing amazing things out there. And so their community already knows, likes, and trusts you from the first moment you're there. And that is how we start to grow our business, is using that trust from the other people to make sure that we're actually growing our business and getting new leads. So I want to share a couple of different things that have really worked for myself. And these are not only things that I've just worked for myself, but they're also the same things that I work with my clients on to make sure that they're able to put themselves out there and pitch to other people to be on their podcast show, but actually get results from it and get clients. So the first thing that I love to talk about is, what is your message? And I teach an attract and stand out framework. It's a 6-month one-to-one coaching program that I support my business clients through. And one of the very first things that we work on is, what is your message? What is your attract and stand out edge? What is the thing that makes you super unique? And it really calls people in so they know exactly who you are, what you do, and how you can support them. So when we think about our messaging, I want you to take a second and really start to uncover, when I am on a podcast, how am I introducing myself? How am I sharing who I am and what I do so that people really can connect really quickly to what I'm saying and how I can support people? So when I first started my business, I actually started on the ground networking in person. I used to live in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm now in Southern California. And those first 9 years on the ground, I was 100% just going to networking events, engaging with people in my community, and it was all local based. I hadn't yet built an online business like we have today. And so I did what I called social butterflying. I wanted everybody to meet me. I wanted everybody to know who I was. And I often joke that I was kind of like Norm from Cheers. If any of you are familiar with that show, like when I walked into a room, people were like, "Hey, Darlene, it's great to see you. It's great to know who you are," or "It's great to see you. It's great to have you here." And I was really good at connecting other people, but I wasn't really clear in my messaging. Nobody really knew what the heck I did, except for they knew who I was and who my face was. And so I got really clear on what's my message. And it took me like 2 years, if I'm honest. 2 years of social butterflying and connecting with people, but not really knowing who I was and what I actually wanted to do to support people to call in those clients. And so I teach a 1 sentence framework that allows people to really pay attention to who you are. And so if I was to meet you today at a networking event and we were in person, I would probably say something like, "Hi, everybody. My name's Darlene Holly. I'm a communication expert, business coach, dedicated to empowering heart-centered entrepreneurs and executive leaders to find their voice and share their message, not only with the confidence that they need, but the clarity so that they can have clear communication and really pull in the right types of people they want to meet." So take a moment for yourself and maybe jot down a couple notes for yourself. Like, what is my message? What is my 1 sentence to grab attention so people know exactly who I am, who I support, and how I can support them? And get really clear on that, because people like to verbally vomit, as I call it. Like, we say so many things when we meet somebody that we walk away going, that person was really cool. I really liked them, but I don't know exactly what they do or how they help. So one of the first things I want you to do is, after today's session, is just take a few minutes and really get clear on your message. And that's going to help on the podcast interviews, because when you go in there and you say too much too quickly, we lose them quickly. So know that message for yourself. The second thing that I want you to consider is storytelling. People connect through emotions. And when you have the honor of being on somebody's podcast as a guest, we want to build trust through emotion and through voice. So I want to teach you a quick storytelling structure that can really help support you when you're on a podcast, when you're sharing a story. We want to think of it as working backwards. So when you're sharing a story on a podcast, or if you're sharing a story on a sales call, or if you're sharing a story from a stage because you're speaking in front of a group, or even if you're at a networking event, what is the aha moment that you want your ideal client to have? While you're sharing the story, what is it that you want them to be thinking or them to be prompting? And so I want you to work it backwards from there. So identify what's the aha moment you want them to have based on the story that you're sharing. And then I want you to write down 2 questions that can support prompting that aha moment. And then from there, I want you to back it up and identify, like, what story could I actually tell that will prompt this aha moment that I want my person that's listening to have? And what are some questions I can ask in that moment? So if we don't have a lot of time today in this training, but I want to give you a couple examples. I'm not going to do the story portion of it for time's sake, but say I wanted to prompt that, the story that I shared a few minutes ago, like when I first started networking and I wasn't really connecting with people, and it took me 2 years to get there. I might ask you a question like, what would shift for you today if you started building relationships and connecting with people quickly so they knew exactly why they needed to hire you so you could grow your business and bring consistent income into your business? That might be a question I would ask after the beginning of that story that I shared earlier, to get people to think, oh, I do want to grow consistent income. I do want to grow my business in those moments. One of my clients came to me, Sarah, and she was guesting on podcasts for months. Nothing was landing though. When she came to work with me, she's like, I've been on like 20 podcasts. I'm not getting any business from it. I'm not getting leads. I'm not getting buzz. No one's signing up for my newsletter list. And when we started working together, we realized that she was only telling parts of her story. She was holding back in a lot of ways. And her message, she was holding back in her messaging. She was holding back in what she actually offered. And we had to get really clear on what her unique angle was and refine how she was telling her story. And once we identified what are like the key origin stories, what are the key parts to her story that were really going to move people forward, she started getting more interviews on other people's podcasts. She was getting lead traffic to her website, which is huge, right? When we are guesting on someone's podcast, we want to make sure we're pulling those people in quickly. She was getting DM inquiries. She was having conversations with people that were actually translating into clients. So I want you to think about, for you, what would shift in your business? What is going to change for you if you start getting more leads, more prospects, more people that are engaging, more people that are paying attention to what you're doing? And the third thing I want to leave with you, and the final thought that I want to leave for you today, is once we start to get that buzz, once we have people that are reaching out to us, how do we actually move people to take action? How do we give them the next step so that we can actually get those leads and turn them into from prospect into paying clients, right? We want to move them into action. So one of the things that we can do, and I think a good example of this is having something that we're going to offer, but only having one thing. I listen to so many podcasts and people will be like, oh, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, you can connect with me on IG, you can go over to Facebook, you can download my free gift, you can get my book, you can schedule a clarity call. And the one thing we know is when we confuse, we lose. I think it's Donald Miller that has that quote. And we don't want to confuse people. We want people to come to us because they know exactly what they want, what we shared very clearly in our messaging, what we can do for them. And now we're going to be able to move them from prospect into client. So I'd like to invite you today, if something struck with you about growing your business, just even based off of this small, very, very small topic of podcasting that we've gotten into so far, and I know we have some amazing conversations coming up for other things that we can use to grow our business. But I want you to download my 6 steps to attract and stand out guide. And this guide is going to give you 6 steps you can use today in your business that I 100% promise if you implement, you will start to make the changes in your business to start moving yourself to the next level and get consistency. And when you download that free guide, I'm also going to throw in an amazing bonus where if you are putting yourself out there on podcasts, you can start tracking the evidence of your podcast in that moment so that you can actually get people, you can go back and track and see what's working, what's not working. How do I get to the next place? Thank you
Okay.
so much. It was so fun to do a quick 10-minute spotlight with you. Thank you so much for having me,
Yes,
Tara.
I have never heard that quote before. I love that. When we are confused, we lose. And you guys, you'll get a follow-up email, and where it will be, if you're watching the YouTube, it'll be in the show notes with Darlene's offer. Okay, so don't worry about that. But I would love, let me go ahead and stop our recording.